Welcome to the True Grime Stories podcast, where in every episode, we'll unravel a new mystery of cleaning business transformation from a grimy mess to a great success. Join me, your host, Jeannie Henderson, as together we dig up cleaning business secrets that you've been dying to know.
Hello and welcome everyone to our next episode of True Grime Stories. And I have one of my dear friends here with us today, Kathy Merchant, the owner of Calico Cleaning right here in Michigan, where I'm located. I'm so excited that Kathy could join us today. And I think you're going to be glad that you are listening to this episode. So Kathy's been in the residential cleaning industry for more than 15 years. And she has specialized in the short-term rental industry. She's right along the lakeshore in Michigan. If you're not familiar with Michigan, it's a beautiful part of the country, and you should come visit us. But Kathy has built a great business. She's over $1 million and has 2 locations. We've known each other for a long time, and we're both certified CBF coaches, so that's how we've gotten to know each other even better. And one of Kathy's specialties is she is a full focus systems coach, along with being a short-term rental expert. So if you're servicing short-term rentals or you need help working on your goals, Kathy is the coach for you. And she is the founder of Kathy Merchant Coaching. She has been recognized as being a mop-free millionaire, which is an exciting thing, and loves to help entrepreneurs grow their business. So welcome, Kathy. We are so excited to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're
excited to be here.
And Kathy and I laugh all the time because we live like 40 minutes apart, maybe.
And never see each other.
We never see each other in person. Here we are, on a video call, or we'll be in another part of the country.
I was going to say, or we travel across multiple states to see each other.
It's kind of sad. But I'm glad that we've gotten to spend so much time together and, get to see each other at least whenever we do. So, but it's been great having you, Kathy, as kind of a partner here in Michigan. That's one of the cool things about being in a community when you start to meet other cleaning business owners. Not only have I learned so much from Kathy, but we also share business and employees back and forth and, connections, vendors, things like that. So it's so nice to be in community with you, Kathy. You're just so generous.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, one of the reasons that I was excited to have you here today is because I know your story, and I had been watching your business for years before I ever met you. So it was really cool when I finally did. I mean, even before I was in the cleaning business, I knew about Calico Cleaning. So, and
I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, Kathy's location that does a lot of business in South Haven, Michigan, which is one of our, beautiful lakeside communities. And so that's someplace I frequent. So, and she has this adorable billboard, like right as you come into town. So I've just always known about you. And, but it was great to meet you and kind of hear your story. And a lot of times we look at cleaning businesses and on the outside, they look like, everything's great. And, a lot of people look at our businesses and they're like, oh, Jeannie and Kathy, they got it all figured out and everything runs perfect all the time, and honestly, I thought that looking at Calico Cleaning from the outside. But I learned a lot about how the short-term rental business was, not always easy for you and things like that. So I'm interested to hear, about your background. So let's dive in and let's start talking about your grime story. We want to go back and dig into the grime scene of where you got started and when you were like deep into, a challenge where you knew that it just can't go on like this. I have to figure out a way out. What did your grime scene look like?
Well, I've been cleaning short-term rentals since I was 18. So 40 years next year. So
oh my goodness.
So since I was 18, I started in Saugatuck, actually, at an Airbnb there.
I
So
did
I've
not
done this
see.
my
I just learned
entire life.
something new. I did not know that.
You did not know that, yes.
I did not.
So, I mean, I held a corporate job. I worked in accounts receivable in a factory, but I did this on the weekends and in the summer. And so 16 years ago, April will be 16 years, I decided to go out on my own, and I had no intention for this to ever become a business. I was just cleaning to make extra school clothes money. I was in a very bad marriage, an abusive marriage, and I was looking for a way to save money to get me and my kids out.
Mm.
And so that's how it started. And I started with 2 vacation rental homes, and we cleaned those up until 2 years ago. We still cleaned them, and they finally retired and sold them. When I first started with them, I was charging him the first one like $50 and the other one was 65.
Oh my goodness.
Big
Wow.
one was a small 2-bedroom cottage, and the other one was it was a 3-bedroom. It was like 1,500 square feet, and I was charging him $65 to clean it. But
How things
from
change.
that, a lot has changed, yes. From that, the following year, we added a couple more, and it was me and my daughter who started the business. She was 16, so she helped me. And we started it, and we added a couple more the following year, and I had to get a couple helpers, and we would meet. You probably remember the Village Market. Used to be a grocery chain.
Sure, yeah.
We would meet at the Village Market parking lot, and we would travel 45 minutes down to Union Pier, New Buffalo, which is by the Indiana line, and we would clean all day, and then we would carpool back. And that's where we started. And we did that for about 2.5, 3 years. And then I finally got my first office, and it was in a little hot dog shack. It's now a hot dog shack. And it was about 150 square feet. I could just put one desk in it and squeeze around the other side of the wall to get behind the desk. And I ran my business out of there, and I also sold Avon products out of there for extra money as well. So
I did not know that either.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
That was 12, 13 years ago that I did that. And so we outgrew that, and we just kept growing, and we kept outgrowing in offices. And eventually it turned into just chaos, just total chaos. And I was ready to quit because every year until 4 years ago when I joined CBF, we were only open in the summer. So we were closed in the winter. Okay. And I only operated from April to October. And then 4 years ago, it's going on 5 years, I'll be in CBF now, is when I wanted to learn about doing residentials. And that's when I joined CBF, and we started to grow. And that was the first year we ever stayed open year round.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, and I think your story will resonate with many people in the cleaning industry. A lot of us kind of become accidental entrepreneurs. We don't plan to build a big business, but suddenly we realize that there's a demand, and there's a lot of people who want to do the work too. So it just becomes like, well, I feel like I have to build a business because there's so much demand. But so tell me, what was that chaos like? Specifically, what did the chaos look like?
So because we were only open April to October, every year I had to hire new people all over again. And I didn't know how to hire, and I didn't know how to train. I just took them in and showed them how I cleaned and what I did. And so I didn't have any processes, any systems in place. It was complete chaos.
So how many people were you hiring every season?
Oh, we were hiring at my highest point, between 30 to 45 every month of April. And I would have to hire them in April and get them all trained before Memorial Day week. But I had such a turnover because you start to hire in April so you can get them trained, but then you have no work. And you end up losing them and starting all over again.
Oh, and so did you have some people who would come back every season, or
teachers and bus drivers? All new? Yeah, our teachers and bus drivers used to come back quite often because they're off in the summer. So it's a perfect job for them. And South Haven is known to be a tourist area, and it's known for its hospitality industry. Right. So a lot of people are used to working only 6 months out of the year and then having to find another job.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't hard to find people. It was hard to find good talent because
Oh my gosh, I
back
just
then,
can't imagine like
yeah,
doing
back then, if you had
that
a pulse, I hired you. I told you I did not know how to hire. I did not know what I was doing. I never intended for this to be a business. I did not go to school for business. I had no idea how to do any of that. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't learn any of that until I came into CBF.
But you built quite a big business.
We
Even,
did. We were at
even though you say you
535,000.
didn't know, you figured out quite a few things. I mean, you had,
Yeah.
how many properties were you serving at that point?
When I met you, we had 45 properties.
Okay.
And we were doing about 535,000.
That's amazing.
And that was with 1099 self-employed contractors and trying to do it that way. I had already had 2 people in my office and my office staff.
Mm-hmm.
I did not lead them well. I had multiple times where I got very angry, and one specific incident slammed my keys down on the desk and said, if you can do it better than me, have at it. So I was not a good leader, and I lost probably a lot of good help along the way because of who I was, not knowing what I didn't know.
Well, and that's one of the things that we learn very early on, or if you don't learn it, you struggle, is that leadership is such a, key point to all of that. Well, and you mentioned when we met, so I did have the honor of coaching with Kathy when she very first came into our education program with Cleaning Business Fundamentals, and kind of watch her journey from that point forward to today when now she has 2 locations. She's a coach. She's mentoring, lots of other people and helping people in the short-term rental industry. So Kathy, when you look back on that, that grime scene that you were living at that time, what was your life like?
Oh, I worked 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We were only closed on Christmas Day. We even cleaned on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, 4th of July. I mean, Memorial, the summer.
So you did have some rentals that stayed on during the winter time?
We would get a surge just during the holiday, and that would be it. But I was the one cleaning them, or me and my daughter just individually would do them.
So you would do the off-season work?
Yeah. I was doing that myself.
Okay.
And I was cleaning up until, I don't think I've cleaned anything at all for the last 6 years.
You're mop free.
Mop free. But up until that point, I was cleaning every weekend with them. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have someone that can step in and be that manager over the weekend, you're ultimately responsible. It's not like the residential cleaning where you can say, well, can we schedule this for Monday or Tuesday? You've got new guests coming in on Saturday, Sunday, Friday evening. And if it's not done, then you're getting several complaints and bad reviews, and it ruins the business for the homeowners. So you don't have a choice in short-term rentals. You are cleaning whenever it has to be cleaned.
Yeah. And that is a really unique part of, it is part of the residential cleaning industry, short-term rentals, but very, very different than the recurring residential business that many of us are doing. It puts a lot more pressure on you as the owner, right? But you have made it, you have figured out how to make it a great business, but you had to go through a lot of grime first, to kind of get there. So,
And you have to have 2 separate sets of staff because they can't work 7 days a week. So we would have a set of staff that worked Monday through Friday, and then we would have a set of staff that worked Wednesday through Sunday, and they would have Monday, Tuesdays off because that was our busiest time. So you have to have 2 separate sets of staff. So,
fascinating.
Yeah.
A little tip for everybody out there who's in the short-term rental business. But it makes sense. It really is, people can't work 7 days a week, or they can't work 24/7 either, which sometimes we try to make people do. So you're in this business. It's, it's running your life, right? At that point. Were you profitable? Were you making good money, or?
No,
I
wasn't. The only time I was making money is if I was out there cleaning myself.
Right.
So,
And that's, a lot of us get stuck in that trap, right? Of like, we think the only way we can make money is when our hands are doing the work.
hmm
And,
well, and back then, I always thought as long as the bills were paid and there was money in the bank, I was doing good.
mm-hmm.
I didn't learn because I didn't know how to run a business. I didn't know what a profit and loss statement was and a balance sheet was. And I didn't know that. I just went off my bank statement. And as long as the bank statement was good, I was doing good.
Right. The old checking account P&L, right?
Mm-hmm.
If there's a positive balance in my checking account, then I must be making money. But that's not always the case. Sometimes the money that's in your checking account isn't actually your money, right? You're going to owe it down the road for taxes or something else. So there you are. What was something that really turned things around for you at that point? What was a big discovery that you had or a solution that you found that helped you kind of get out of that grime scene and start to make a change to your business that ultimately changed your life?
COVID.
COVID. Okay.
So COVID hit and short-term rentals plummeted.
Right.
We couldn't rent anymore. We couldn't go out of state. You had to stay. And so I was at the point where I was like, my business is done. Like, we can't travel anymore. We can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. I had a handful of commercial clients. And at that point, we laid everyone off. And my husband and I just cleaned those few commercial accounts. And it was somewhere in that whole 6 to 8 weeks of when COVID was like all we were talking about.
Right.
That
In Michigan, it was a very big deal. Not that it wasn't a big deal everywhere else, but we really shut down.
That was where somewhere I had seen Debbie was doing a free webinar or something where she was talking to people about how to pivot and that we are essential. And so I started listening to her. I did not realize until I joined CBF that I had speed cleaning for the cleaners, and the whole bundled packet had been on my shelf for 3 years and I'd never opened it.
Oh my goodness.
So when I seen her, I seen her on there, and like me and my two ladies that were in my office were watching it. And I was like, we have to do something with residential. We're not, who knows when we'll open again, if we even will. At that time, we didn't know anything. We didn't know what was going to happen. And our business was done. There was nothing for us to do. And so we watched the speed cleaning, and we watched Debbie that whole 2 or 3 days that she was doing it on live. And I just called Diana and I said, just take my money. I don't need to talk to Debbie. I never did talk to Debbie. I never had my consultation call with her. I just told Diana, and she was going through and explaining, well, you'll get this and this, up until your 14 days. And I was like, no, just take my whole payment now and send me what I need. And that's when we pivoted. And that's when we started doing residentials. And my girls hated it because they were so used to a clean house. Because short-term rentals, we clean them 2 or 3 times a week. So they're always clean. So old dirt and new dirt, as we refer to it, they never experienced having to deal with old dirt.
I never saw old dirt before. Yeah. Yes. We know what old dirt is, right? If you're in the cleaning business, especially if you go to a client that has never had a professional cleaner, you know what old dirt looks like.
Right. And to go from cleaning a vacation rental that you're cleaning at least once every week, if not 2 or 3 times a week from the turnovers, they're always clean. So being able to switch that mindset of going into a residential home versus a vacation rental, it's some people just can't do it. It's too hard for them.
Well, and I guess that would be like the difference between commercial cleaning and residential cleaning, right?
Correct.
It is 2 different people, really. It's a completely different cleaning process. The goal is different,
right?
And so yeah, I get that, but I hadn't really thought about that huge difference of the old dirt and new dirt. So that's really interesting. So you found cleaning business fundamentals. We hate COVID, but some good things came out of COVID. It made us, it opened our eyes to a lot of things that we didn't know about, right? And so once you got in there, what was that big change that you made to your business that got you out of your grime scene that you'd been in for how many years at this point?
At that point, we were 9 years in.
All right. So 9 years in,
Mm-hmm.
not really making money, 24/7, 365, running your business. What was the thing that really helped, or what was one thing that really turned things around for you and helped you kind of get to a point where you're like, feeling some relief?
I would say realizing how undercharging I was. That
Oh,
was probably my biggest thing because I was still charging like between $20 and $22 an hour
oh my goodness.
back then. And
Yeah.
so, and then and I was splitting the profit. So I would do it by the house, but it came out to be between $20, $22 an hour. But I would split that 50% with whoever was cleaning it if I wasn't the one cleaning it. But then I also had an inspector and I also had to have a grounds guy, and I was not taking into consideration to take their wages out of that before I split that 50%.
Right.
And so
You weren't taking your overhead out. Mm-hmm.
Right. I didn't know how to run a business. I didn't know about overhead.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't.
Overhead, what's that?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So I wasn't doing that. And so the biggest thing, that first thing was just raising our prices and then learning how to use like QuickBooks was where I started, like starting to put my expenses in. And I was doing it myself back then, but it was still better than what I previously did, which was nothing.
Yeah.
And starting to see that and then trying to come up with, and I paid them by the hour. So,
okay, so paying hourly instead of, yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we originally did in the beginning, we were doing house rates is what I used to call them. So I would split it 50-50 with them.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the way, I was like, no, I'm just going to pay them hourly. That'll be better. Well, that was worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
hourly employees in the cleaning industry figure out very quickly that speed is not their friend, right? Right. It's better for them to move more slowly. They get paid more.
Right.
If they're getting paid by
so once we raised our prices and I finally took and dusted off speed cleaning for the pros off my shelf that I had for 3 years already, then we implemented that. And that's when things started to change.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Those are
those
big
two
things.
small things.
Pricing and training, right?
Yes.
And the right system. Okay?
Right.
So you were at like 22 an hour. What was the going rate that you raised it to then at that point? Do you remember?
We went to 45.
Mm-hmm.
We went to 45 is where we started. We are currently between 60 and 63.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, but I mean, you pretty much like had to double what you were
Mm-hmm.
charging. And, you and I talk to a lot of people in the cleaning industry. And even today, we run into people often who think, well, that it's right to be charging somewhere in the 20s to low 30s for cleaning.
It is for an individual housekeeper.
Right. If you're an individual, right. A solo. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And that's a mindset shift of, right, that we need to charge differently if we're going to be a professional cleaning company with all the benefits that come with having a professional cleaning company as opposed to being a solo cleaner. And yeah, that's huge right there. And I think a lot of people are afraid of price increases, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were you afraid?
Oh, I was terrified. That's why I had you coaching me, and you're like, just do it.
Just do it, Kathy.
You can do hard things, Kathy. I was like, so we didn't do it to our legacy clients right away. We just started with the new ones, which is what you had coached me to do. And so we just started doing it. I'm like, oh, they're accepting it. Like,
I do remember that. I'm like, so how did it go? And they're like, yeah, people are buying it at this new rate. It's kind of surprising. I had the exact same experience. When I realized that I was not charging enough. I think I was charging about 25 per cleaning hour. And Debbie said, you got to charge at least 40. And I can't charge 40. So I charged 35 on one and they didn't blink an eye. They're like, okay, they just signed up. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have charged more. And I did. I started charging more.
Yeah, so we just kept raising it until we got, 50-50 somewhere in there. And I'm like, okay, all right, so we can level out now. And then that year, I also raised all the rates on my vacation rentals. I don't know if you remember, but you were like, you need to double their prices and this will slow them down. And I was like, okay. And I did. And I only lost 5 and I
That was
replaced them with
surprising
higher
too,
ones.
wasn't it?
Yeah, that was very eye-opening for me.
Yeah, I think our customers, when we're not charging them enough, know how much they should be paying,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not going to say to you, "Hey, you should be charging me twice as much." They're
Right.
never going to say that.
Right.
But yeah, that's
They're trying to keep their overhead low too, as well. So
yeah, right. And a lot of it too is, having the confidence, being around a group of people that have all done this, all gone out and raised our prices, because we all start out too low.
mm-hmm.
Anybody who's listening to us now, this is a solid gold thing for you to be focusing on is your pricing. If there's any good place to start other than getting the confidence to do it, it's like you have to focus on your pricing. It has to be in the right place. So how did you, go about figuring out, how to do it, what you were going to charge, all that kind of stuff. And, what was that experience like when you were selling at these new higher rates?
Well, it was really scary for me because, like I said, we were closed and we'd never done residential. So I just did everything Debbie told me to do. Like everything she said, I just followed it because she's been doing it for 40 years. I had never done it.
Mm-hmm.
And it really helped that I went to CBF Live because I met a lot of other business owners because we joined I want to say, I can't even remember. I want to say it was like February or March. It must have been March because it was around the COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we joined in March and then we had live sometime in April.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up meeting a lot of other cleaning business owners and everybody just said, follow Debbie, don't tweak it. Don't break it. Don't try to, make it your way. It was a little hard for us because we did have so much short-term rentals and very little residential. So it took me a couple of years to figure out how to tweak it to make it work for short-term rentals.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when we came up with the Vacation Rental Academy and we built that within CBF because I had to try it and pilot it and trial and error for a few years to figure out what worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
And it was more of anything. The last piece I implemented was empowered pay. And that was because I could not figure out the short-term rental part of it. Mm-hmm. And then Debbie spent some time with me on the phone and we just figured it out together. Like we went through the whole thing. She helped me figure it out. And I was like, I can do this now. So that was the very last piece that we did. Mm-hmm. Everything else we implemented right away. And we've never looked back.
That's so great. Well, and so I love this story. Let's pause here for just a second. We've been talking about CBF. Let's take a break and hear from our sponsor, CBF, and we'll come right back and we'll hear all about how great things are today for you.
After 9 incredible years, it's the grand finale of CBF Live. We're going out with a bang, and you don't want to miss it. Join CBF founder Debbie Sardone and hundreds of cleaning professionals for 3 game-changing days packed with insider strategies, powerful networking, and exclusive tools to take your business to the next level. This is your last chance before CBF Live is gone forever. Use my discount code in the show notes and save $100 on your ticket to CBF Live 2025.
Welcome back, everybody, to our episode of True Grime Stories with Kathy Merchant of Calico Cleaning in Michigan. Kathy's been sharing with us about how she found her way out of her own grime scene through changing the way that she prices her cleaning and pays her team. So, Kathy, this is something that's so foundational, pricing. And I think we just kind of take it for granted that people are going to price their jobs right. But, when you were pricing at the rates that you were pricing at, why were you charging those low rates before?
I didn't think they would pay that amount where I live. I just really didn't. Like, I just Googled what is a going rate for a housekeeper in South Haven, Michigan, and Indeed would pop up and it would show, different rates. And that's where I got my rates from.
Okay.
And it never even dawned on me to test it, to call, do a market analysis, which I now know how to do, but to, do a market analysis of your entire area and see what the going rate is for a company versus an individual housekeeper.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of consumers get hung up on, is the individual housekeeper versus a professional company.
Right. Well, and I think something that you said that was really key is you did not believe that people would pay, more than that. And it gets in our head. Like, we start to believe that we understand how the client thinks, But
well, and with my short-term rentals, I worked with a lot of property management companies, and they set their price. So I was like, oh, so I would base it off of, this is what they're willing to pay here. But at that point, I didn't understand that they're lowballing it also, because it's coming out of their percentage that they're getting from running that house. So I set my prices to match what they were willing to pay me, not realizing, that it was still too low.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it that you came back and you just changed the game on them, and you only lost 5 out of what? How many?
Out of 45, but we replaced them with new ones that were paying the higher rates. So
that is a great story right there. I love that recovery. And I think that's a lesson to all of us about what you believe is not necessarily always true. And when you have the confidence to just do it, or do the thing that you're scared of, I'm afraid to raise prices, go out there and do it. It's amazing how you find out quickly that things are not as they seem if you don't have all the information.
And you don't know what you don't know. So just take people's suggestions and try it, and do your own trial and error and see how it works. And it may not work for you depending on what you're trying. Like, the pricing is probably always going to work. But, if depending on what it is in your business, just try it. It may not work for you, but maybe you're missing just a little piece that you just need. Oh, if I tweaked it a little bit this way, then it would work for my area. And some of it's just changing your mindset.
Well, and the other thing that you said is work in my area. So in our community, we kind of chuckle a little bit when people say that, because we all say it.
We all said it.
And, I have talked to hundreds, and Kathy has talked to hundreds of cleaning business owners. And when you initially talk to a cleaning business owner, they're like, well, in our area, people won't pay that, or, that kind of, and just to let
my situation is unique. I've heard that quite often.
Yeah. Oh, I said it the first time that I talked to Debbie Sardone. I'm like, oh, people won't pay that in Kalamazoo, and I really believed that. And as long as I believe that, that's all I'll ever be able to charge. I was limiting myself, self-limiting. We all do that. But just for everybody listening today, I know that your area is special to you, but it's not that different when it comes to being a market of cleaning, for residential cleaning, or any business for that matter. People are people. And, if you look across the whole marketplace, it isn't that different. And we all think our market is so different and so unique, but it truly isn't. I have to still remind myself of that every once in a while. I get caught up in but in Michigan, this or that. So I'm so glad you shared that. So fast forward to today, here you are, you're growing your business over $1 million. You're now a coach, you're coaching other businesses. You've developed the short-term rental academy, which is so amazing. And if you guys are in short-term rentals, make sure you connect with Kathy. We'll be sure and share a link to that in our show notes too, so people can find you. Here you are today. What is life like now on the other side of making all these changes to your business?
Well, you know me, I'm a very transparent person, and it's much better today than it was, I'll say 7 years ago, 8 years ago. when I was working 7 days a week. We don't clean short-term rentals on weekends anymore.
Oh my goodness. That's a huge
that was
step right there.
That was a change I made last year, and I was terrified. But we only lost 2 clients, and it was 2 clients that we didn't care about working with in the first place. And I don't mean that in a mean way.
Yeah.
It was just, one was a property management company that had so many properties, we couldn't service them all anyway. So I don't mean that in a negative, rude way in any way. And the other one was just very difficult to work with. And my cleaners, she was always there over their shoulder, watching everything they did. And it struggled to keep it staffed. But we just let them know a year in advance that we're not going to be doing, our team needs a break. And we don't get good quality cleans when we have to hire people just for weekends. It's just a second job to them.
Right.
And so we let them know a year in advance and taught them or educated them on how to block their schedules so they don't have turns on Saturday or Sunday. And this will be our first year doing it. So we're excited to not have to.
That's revolutionary for the short-term rental industry, though. I would say you are in a group of 1% of people who are like, hey, we're going to structure our business the way we want to. Instead of letting.
I only know of one other
structure our business.
Yeah, I only know one other company that's doing it, and she did it a year before I did. That's Wendy Nellett.
Oh yeah,
also in CBS.
Another great Michigander.
Yes, she did it. She's up in the Petoskey area. She did it a year before I did, and she had great results with it. So the other thing that we did that really turned things around for our short-term rental side of it was purchasing our own linens and not having to do laundry on site. That was a huge game changer for us and made our efficiency where I didn't have to I hired 18 less people the first year I did that.
Holy cow.
So that was huge. It was a big investment, but not having to hire 18 additional people was definitely worth it. And we did that 3 years ago now. And it's just been a huge game changer for us. But my business is still not perfect.
Well, none of us have perfect businesses.
Right. Now that we
don't come look in my business to find perfect.
Now that we have our systems and our training and all of that in place, now I'm just working on building the best leadership team. And I've done a complete leadership change from where I started to where I am.
The people who got you to where you were are not the people who are going to take you where you want to go.
Exactly.
That is a really normal.
That was hard for me
in a business, right? That there's going to be some shift changing around because you're running a completely different business today than when you brought that team on.
That probably was the hardest thing for me to learn, was that it's okay to outgrow people.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't make them of any less value of what they brought to our company, because Calico wouldn't be what it is today without the people who work here now and the people who've worked here in the past.
Yeah. You can still honor the people who helped build the company with you, but where you're headed may not be the right place. We're shifting around our leadership a lot right now, really shifting roles, really focusing on, we're doing a lot of job role clarification and, and not everybody's staying in the same role. So that's pretty normal, but that's a big win actually. But it's a hard thing to do.
Yeah, it is, because one of them was with me 15 years.
Yeah.
And another one was with me for 11 years.
And so I can see that touches your heart. And that's because you're a great leader and you're a human. Right. And you care about people. I very rarely run into anyone in the cleaning industry that doesn't have a heart for serving others.
Right.
And we tend to overgive and, because we have such a heart for other people. And sometimes that kind of puts us in a situation where we keep people too long. Anybody done that before? Keep somebody.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Me several times.
Right. Or we don't make a change when we know we should. Like the first time you think you're supposed to let someone go or move them to another position, you're right. the first time you think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
no, it is hard though. And
It is hard. And that's probably the hardest thing that I've went through is my leadership team and making those changes throughout my whole business. I have said before, because we had, what happened with us this last August. And I've
right.
said before, I would go back to cleaning 7 days a week, not to have to have dealt with that. But you
Yeah.
have to make the hard choices and the hard decisions for the better of your entire company. And I mean that by employees. Like you
Yeah.
can't hang on to one person just because they've been with you for many years. That is toxic for the rest of your employees. My main priority is every cleaning business owner, every business owner is every employee. I have to take every employee's consideration. And it's not just that employee, it's also their spouse, their children, it's their livelihood. And I take that very seriously.
Yeah.
And so leadership is the hardest lesson I have learned.
Yeah, it is hard. And that's one of the things about being an entrepreneur is we're constantly learning a new hard lesson, at every level.
Well, if you think about it, you spend more time with the people in your office than you do your family a lot. So they become like family to you. And learning how to separate personal from business is probably one of my hardest lessons I've learned.
Yeah.
And that we're not friends and we're not family, even though we say we're a family here. You're not. At the end of the day, they're your employee, and learning that lesson will probably be the hardest lesson you ever learn in business.
Well, that's what I talk about that in my new program, Culture Magic, little plug. But, we have to build a team, not a family.
Right.
Because you can cut people from your team, but you can't cut people from your family.
Right.
And, but you can care about them very deeply and want to do things to make their lives better, because we do spend so much time at work. I feel it's our responsibility as owners to make it the best that we can for our team members, because it does impact their life outside of work. Right. If they're having a bad day at work, they're going to take that home with them, so you're doing the right thing. And so what's coming for Calico Cleaning? I know you have a second location, right?
We do. We opened our second location in Holland, November of last year. Mm-hmm. And another lesson I learned, you don't need a big, huge, fancy office to open a second location.
Yeah. Right.
But that area is growing very well. What's coming for us? We would like to open 2 more locations by 2027.
That's exciting. That's
great.
Exciting. Yeah. And that's, once you get yourself to the point where you are running $1 million business and you have a great team, that's when you can start thinking about a second location. So this is a great lesson for people listening, is because a lot of people jump to that second location, I think probably earlier than they should. Right.
I did.
Do you feel like you did?
Yeah, I felt like I should have waited. And the reason why I feel that way now is because I had wanted to do it for 3 years. But one of the people that was on my leadership team handled all my financials, and she kept telling me I couldn't do it. And so when she left, it was an ego thing. And I was like, hey, nobody here to tell me I can't do it. Now I'm doing it. And I should have waited. Yeah. I should have waited. But that area is growing and it's doing great. And I don't regret it. I just regret that we got a big, expensive office we didn't need and spent a lot of money there that we didn't need to spend. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I get that. But and we never stop learning, right, Kathy?
Right.
We never stop learning. Well, and that's the great thing about working with Kathy is that, you get all those years of experience in the short-term rental industry, in the cleaning industry. And also tell us a little bit about your goal setting and, why you love helping people with that full focus coaching.
Well, I had another coach that used to be in CBF who told me about the full focus planner, because I've always been someone who struggled with staying on task. I think I'm a good multitasker, and I know there's no such thing now, but if you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would have told you I'm a great multitasker.
Oh, right.
But you're truly not. And
nobody is, by the way. Yeah.
Right. Nobody is. And you can't manage time. You can only learn to manage yourself. We all get the same 24 hours in a day. And so the full focus planner, I was a planner junkie. Like I would try a planner for a week or two and I was like, it's not what I want. And I'd buy another one. And it's the first time that I found something that kept me on task and I did not get bored within the first few weeks or month. And so I love the system so much. I became certified in their whole system, not just the planner. And a big part of that is setting goals and learning to manage time, which is managing yourself. And that's where I learned all of that from. So I became a certified full focus systems coach, as well as being a CBF coach. And so my whole entire team uses full focus planners, and I train other people within the CBF community. And here in my own community in town, I hold full focus planner sessions and train them how to use the whole system. Because it's not just about the planner, it's about the system around the planner.
Right. So. Yeah. Well, and that's such an important lesson, and one that I think all struggle with. Not too many of us are born coming, we don't come out of the womb knowing how to manage ourselves. It takes time.
It's especially good for people who have ADD or ADHD. Keeps them on task. Or if you're someone who just lives by a list of what you need to get done for the day. And if you think about it back when, not so much now, but people used to have a chore list, or, from growing up, you had a list of what you needed to get done when you got home from school, your homework, and then your chores. And I think it goes back to that. And just, we kind of grew up with knowing that we had a list of things that we had to do every day, and then taking that into your professional world.
Yeah.
And some people live by a list of what they have to get done, and they can't focus if they don't have it.
Oh my gosh. If I lose my list, I'll spend hours looking for my list.
Right.
It's like, what was on my list? I don't even remember. Yeah. So no, that's great. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for sharing today. And, that's a lesson, the lesson about pricing, just having your numbers right, that if you don't have that right, nothing else will fall into place. You will always be struggling. And to have the confidence to go out there and literally double your prices is a great example to everyone listening. So thank you so much for sharing that and being a part of True Grime Stories today. And we look forward to watching you grow.
Well, thank you.
Thanks. And thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to this episode of True Grime Stories. And if you want to know more about cleaning business fundamentals, there is no better way than joining us at an upcoming event called CBF Live. It's in April 2025, April 10th through the 12th. And I hope that you will join us there. It's going to be the best CBF Live ever. And after 9 years, it's also going to be the last CBF Live, because we're going to be restructuring our live events going forward. But we hope that you will join Kathy and me there. And so we'll put a link in the show notes so you can check out CBF Live. And if you want to just know more about CBF, I'd be happy to talk with you. And there's a link that you can set up a free call with me in the show notes as well. So we hope to see you on the next episode of True Grime Stories. Be sure to share, download, and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.
Well, that's a wrap on today's True Grime Stories. Thanks for joining us in uncovering the secrets of cleaning business success. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and download, and check out our show notes for links and info from today's episode, and to learn more about our sponsor, Cleaning Business Fundamentals. Join us next time as we solve another True Grime story.